95% of the economic benefit from the arrival of the ETFs has gone to the Bitcoiners that don't have ETFs.
Bitcoin's going to at least equal the market capitalization of gold in dollar terms. So you've got now a 13, 14x just to get to gold, which is a lot higher than the current price. And then, of course, it should exceed gold. It should also demonetize the bond market, demonetize the property market, demonetize the stock market. So now you're talking about Bitcoin worth 100 trillion, 200 trillion, 300 trillion.
I would look at this as a 4 to 8 year hold. The play here is to buy it, put it away safely, continue to buy it on a daily cost basis.
Hi and welcome to one of my really rare instances where I do a solo episode, and today we review the top 10 Bitcoin videos on my channel featuring Michael Saylor, Max Kaiser, Jeff Proof, all the big ones, obviously. Top 10 videos of 350 videos. An amazing thing. Really, let's get into it. And the first video that I want to show you guys, obviously, it is with top 10 video is Fred Kruger, the mathematician Fred Kruger. Nobody wants US dollar in 10 years. I agree with that. I don't want any fiat currency now at all, and it's not 10 years since that video. It's just 5 months from that video. So let's look at the video, then let's look at the comments, and then let's go from there.
Well, I mean it's growing kind of at the 12th power of time. So if you look at these power law models, right? The price is going up relative to the 6th power of time. So Bitcoin price is going to the time measured from say 2010, right? Or 2009, whatever you want to do. But let's just say 2010, which was sort of the first prices of Bitcoin, right? So if you look at time from 2010 and you look at the price of Bitcoin, it's gone up at the time to the power 6, roughly. If you look at hash rate, it's gone up at the square of that, so time to the power 12. And if you look at adoption, it's sort of time to the power cubed, roughly. So there's a very clear kind of growth model for Bitcoin with these power laws. Kind of, they're not, You could say they're kind of a religion. I do think that they're rather amazing, but there is a clear pattern of we've got this adoption that's leading to this price and that's leading to this hash rate.
For the few people that might never heard of the power law, I feel like right now most of them heard about it. But what is it and why is it so intriguing for you?
Well, it's the intriguing thing is that Bitcoin, if you look at Bitcoin and you're just looking at it without looking at it in log terms, right? If you're just looking at it normally, your narrative is this thing is very risky, right? And it goes up. It went up a lot in 2018 or 2017. It crashed in 2018. It went up a lot in 2020. It crashed in 2022. Now it's back up, but it just seems completely volatile, right? Like, there's no rhyme or reason to this thing. It goes up, it goes down, it crashes. Now, if you look at it on a log basis, where Bitcoin price is on a log, it looks like, well, it's going up, but it's sort of like going up a little less fast. And then if you look at it on a log basis, you're like, oh, wow, this thing is kind of a line, right? It's going up in a linear fashion, very predictably, with actually sort of a reasonable volatility to it in log terms. So I think it's an important discovery that Bitcoin actually is obeying this very sort of regular progression, and this Italian physicist Giovanni kind of first observed this and pointed it out, and nobody cared, and he was sort of ignored. And and he sort of one of the things I've tried to do is try to explain to people what he did, and so I was sort of saying, look, you should give the man some credit. He found this incredible relationship.
That's an amazing thing already. Yeah. Fred Kruger, the 10th one, obviously, it's the power law has to be in some way, shape, or form in that top 10 and deserved like that. Like the power law was a big discussion. Right now, it feels like there's a little bit of a off cooling for the power law. Maybe this comes back. There's also another video of the power law, and small spoiler, it's not with Giovanni. Giovanni videos didn't make it. Giovanni videos, I think it's in the top 30, top 20 or something like that, but it's not in the top 10 videos. But another power law video made it in there. And Fred Kruger made a really good job in explaining the power law. And I think the power law is really good when we look at hash rate, or if we look at Bitcoin versus gold. When we look at the power law in US dollar terms, I think it will break to the upside completely at some point. It didn't really break to the upside till now, depending on how you look at what the definition of breaking of that model is. But I think it's a great base case for Bitcoin. If you look like, okay, that's kind of like an average or minimum price target I can look at in US dollar terms. But be prepared that price target might be higher than it actually turns out to be. So yeah, let's go back to the mathematician Fred Kruger. He does a really good job in explaining that. Let's see some comments here. What a time to be alive from Calvin. Yeah, it's actually crazy when you think about what kind of how grateful I am to be right here, right now, in this Bitcoin era where Bitcoin kind of just grows, and we might experience right now the creation, the invention of the sound money, which will be there for the next 100, next 1,000, maybe forever there, maybe even for other planets. I don't know. It's really hard to say what's happening in 1,000 or tens of thousands of years, but it will be really significant in the coming years. So from that standpoint on, it is absolutely what a time to be alive. Really grateful, honestly, to be that. Then we're so lucky to be alive at the start of this. Yeah, like he basically said the same thing. Again, most underrated Bitcoin channel. You're always on your A game, Captain. Thank you so much, Sal. I think you also gave, exactly. You gave me also $20 here. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. It really helps me out a lot to monetize the channel and get it going, and maybe also get some post-production in there. Fred has been a breath of fresh air this year. Great conversation. Another top level guest. This channel is starting to get a base. It's nice that the top comments are also like about the channel, and not only about the guest, but the guest should be the center focus. That's also another interesting thing. Stevie, the block size must never ever be changed. Computer chips and other technologies must and will change for Bitcoin. Interesting. I don't know. I think the block size we should not change. I think there are more downsides than the upside is if we change the block size. But that might be different when we look, let's say, 100 years into the future, because technology and the hardware will be so different that it might make just sense to double the block size or something like that. Right now, it's a really hard no. Right now, it's a really hard no to increasing the block size. But maybe in the future, we have to be at least open to change Bitcoin if we really have to. Right now, I really don't think that that's necessary. And it's actually dangerous. Right now, it would be very dangerous to do that. But let's move on to the number 9, the top 9th episode of this year, Bitcoin 2024. And it is Brian Harrington, owning 0.21 Bitcoin is a big deal. I agree 100% with that. I agree more than 100% of that. I even go ahead and say 0.1 Bitcoin is a big deal, depending on where you live and what you are waiting for in Bitcoin and what kind of you're looking forward to. But let's say what's the favorite clip of this podcast, what the audience watched the most. So like how I saw what's the most audience is like you have a retention rate that starts with 100% of the viewers and stops at like 10, 20, 30, 40% of the viewers. And in that line of 100% to whatever the end percentage is, it drops significantly in there. But sometimes there are like spikes in there, or like people watch a part longer even though they didn't watch that. So I tried to find the highlight of the video, and that's the highlight of this video.
The way that I tackled the whole capital gains issue is when previously that was a mental barrier for me also, because I'm, lean libertarian, lean small government, lean whatever, like freedom as like, as a lot of people do. And for me, it was like, oh, paying capital gains taxes is like antithetical because that's like continuing, a vision of the world that I don't want to foresee. Right. And so this whole thing of keep your Bitcoin until such a future where Bitcoin replaces the dollar and that's like eventually overturned. Right. Like that kind of very classic thing. What's new now and what helped me click past this was owning Bitcoin, like having a capital gain means you made a gain. Like that's a good problem to have. So connecting back to the influence part, you hold a person holding Bitcoin instead of fiat and making a gain. It literally has more stored labor, more potential now underneath their future self than if they had held the fiat money. Like that's good. The more amount of Bitcoiners that can be the most amount of wealthy as possible means that the future that you and I are both interested in will happen as fast as possible. And so for me, that's the mental framework that changed, combined with, again, the tools of Fold and other places, like tracking the capital gains even faster so that it's not a headache. It's not a headache. You just receive a form the same.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that he made, and I never heard the point made before when I was on the podcast and people talked about the medium of exchange size of things in Bitcoin. Because the thing you have to know is in most countries right now, if you spend your Bitcoin, you most likely have to pay capital gains tax. For example, in Austria, if you buy Bitcoin now and it goes up 50%, and you sell it or you spend it on even like a coffee, even like something small or like something bigger, like a printer, like who buys printer these days? I just saw a printer behind Brian Harrington, so I was like printer, but like something bigger also. On the profits you made with that period of time in Bitcoin, you have to pay 27% tax. In America, it's like 10 to 20% or 30%, I think, even depending on long-term and short-term capital gains tax. I don't know exactly because I have no clue about the American tax system. And maybe in some countries, even up to 40, 50%, in some countries, 5 to 10%. But most countries, except like El Salvador, I think Portugal and some other countries don't have a capital gains tax on Bitcoin. If you have to pay them, you basically pay not only for the good and service that you pay for, but you also have to spend the capital gains tax. And Brian Harrington is making an interesting mindset shift for that. He's like, if you don't hold any fiat, if you only hold Bitcoin, it is better because you make a profit from that. So like if you hold the fiat for buying something, versus you hold the Bitcoin for buying something. On fiat, you don't have to spend you don't have to pay capital gains tax, but on Bitcoin you only spend capital gains tax on profits you made. So if you're in loss, you don't pay capital gains tax. Only if you are up, you have to pay capital gains tax. So in that way, you can look at that spending event is being a good event for you. Because if you otherwise held fiat only, you would have not made profits. Yes, you have to pay money to the government, which is bad, but otherwise you wouldn't have that money anyways. But then there's this whole borrowing against it, or getting in credit, and buying the credit off with Bitcoin. Like, there's a lot of games you can play in that. But the theory is really interesting. To, like, if you just hold 100% of Bitcoin and you pay things with Bitcoin, it really does make sense to a larger degree. For me, at least, even though I don't do that, I many times on the podcast I revealed how I do it. I have like a bank account which can go to up to $10,000 in the minus, and I always keep it around the zero. So, like, if I have a high influx on income, I spend it on Bitcoin. If I have to pay something and I'm getting into the minus, I use the fiat that's coming in to pay up the debt. So I always try to get at zero. I always have around 100% of Bitcoin exposure. I don't know if everyone can do that stuff, but it's definitely, it's for me the most uncomplicated and maximum exposure strategy that I can do right now. But yeah, let's move on to number 8. We are flying. Oh, wait, no. First, we have to look at the comment section again. Just seeing one or two good comments. The decentralized aspect is huge. It's like having a portable, secure assets, 100%. What's the little fish don't fully grasp is that the big fish are buying with no intention of ever selling. That's a good one. But never. If you never sell your Bitcoin, you are also holding something else you pay your bills with, which means you could buy more Bitcoin. So I agree with that mindset with never selling, but you can use it to spend on something, even though I don't do that. But it's a legit strategy for you to do. DCA is the way to go. DCA all the way. Forgot to like that one. Keep BTC as a store of value. Using Bitcoin to buy anything today will be extremely expensive tomorrow. I don't agree with that. That's why I didn't like it. I don't agree with that because of the things that I just explained. I probably answered the same thing. But yeah, it is an interesting discussion, definitely. But he explained in that clip really good why it does make sense. Perfect. Yeah. Let's see if there's anything else. America, great place. Just wish the population would stop overusing the word like in their grammar. It's painful. I'm super sorry. I'm also doing that from time to time, like now. But it's definitely, once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. A lot of people say like too much, including myself. But yeah, let's move on to number. We had 10, we had 9, and now we are at number 8. And this is Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson was a really cool guest, and I liked him a lot. And yeah, he's the guy that says all in, do everything you can to get to 1 Bitcoin. Let's go and let's see what he has to say. What do you think primed you to understand Bitcoin? Because I feel like even like there are a lot of rich dudes, a lot of smart dudes that have no clue about Bitcoin. and it's just like a very small group of people that actually understand and grasp Bitcoin right now. What do you think primed you to actually understand it?
All right. So before I had any type of like real money, like I was paying attention to Bitcoin, right? So my first Bitcoin buy was in 2017. And it was strictly for the purpose of trying to make more money, right? So me and my cousin Johnny were just like halfway reading these books, halfway kind of paying attention, but we're just like, we want the number to go up, So I'm thinking I'm some mad scientist and I buy it 3,000, sell it 6,000. I think I'm the king of the world. It goes up to 20,000. And then I'm sitting here looking at my cousin like, bro, what did we do wrong? So then it crashes. And then I'm like, well, I guess I did that right. Like I didn't miss out. So then what ended up happening is like 2019, I'm like buying in as I'm starting making more money. I'm buying in. I'd buy a whole coin for $4,000, sell it for $7,000, or buy it for $8 and sell it for $12. And I'm just thinking like a trader, But how the saying goes, like you come for the number go up and you stay for the revolution, So then what would happen is I would start following traders who would like trade Bitcoin, and I'm like, all right, this is pretty cool, And then I started to find like people who were like very deeply into this, like Naval, for example, right? So you know and follow Naval?
No, actually not.
Oh man.
Maybe I know him from like his profile, but this name doesn't ring a bell now.
I'll send you his profile. He's some profound guy, but he's a angel investor in Silicon Valley, but he's also like a philosopher, right? So I would like listen to some of the podcasts and stuff he would do, and he would talk about like the impact of cryptocurrency and things like that. And then I'm like, oh, this is crazy. You know who he is now?
I know him. I googled him. Yeah, I know this guy.
So,
Naval Ravikant.
Yep. So as I'm like listening to him, and then like, he would say little things, like he has this old tweet that would say like basically you're either left to play the wealth game or the status game, right? So the status game is, where you went to school, kind of car you drive, the jewelry you wear, like who you hang out, where you hang out with, like that, right? Or you can choose to play the wealth game, and the wealth game is how long can you survive without another paycheck. So he said that, and I'm like, whoa, like, that's actually deep. So I start paying attention to him, start listening. And then he kind of led me down this rabbit hole. And I'm like, man, why are these people buying Bitcoin and saying they're never going to sell when I'm just turning a profit, like, every few months? So I started kind of paying attention, and I'm like, okay, this is something that you can hold. So then what happened is during COVID, when they printed off all that money, I already understood the impact of it. And I'm like, oh, this is why people are like, it's not necessarily a hedge to inflation, but a solution to inflation, right? Because at any given moment, we're always one event away from them stroking the pen. And now we're going to flood the whole global economy with more money. And now the cost of living is going up. And then you start to put two and two together. Like, the price of these assets are going up because they're propped up by all the global liquidity, or the M2 money supply, the global money supply. They send assets up. They send your real estate up. They're what's propping, Bitcoin to go up too. And you're like, all this new money has to find a home, right? So if all this new money has to find a home, and it's going to find a home in real estate, well, they're just going to build a house right next to yours, right? Or if all this money finds a home in stocks, and then the company can say, let's issue more shares. So therefore you just been diluted.
And it's really interesting with this one with Chris Johnson, because that is pretty basic Bitcoin understanding. But this part was actually the most watched one. This was the one that was most repeated. And I think that and I saw it also in the statistics, that this video got shared above my usual audience in different kind of audience streaks. So Chris Johnson is an interesting guest because I think he brings in income business people that want to higher the income, up their level, their business level, and not the usual Bitcoiner crowd. Even though the Bitcoiners are also highly interested in that, of course, because they want to hire their stack, but it's a different crowd, and he really gets them also in. And that crowd really needs the basic Bitcoin understanding. So I think that's why this mindset of like, You don't trade it, you just hold it. Why is Bitcoin going up? Why is it so scarce? And why is it so much better than real estate? Why is it so much better than anything else like stocks? It really got a lot of attention. And yeah, this was top 7, top 8 video of this year, and it's a recent one. It's like 2 months ago. It's not even that far ago. Chris Johnson is the BTC man, but so is Robin Seyr. Yeah, I hope. I only do Bitcoin, so I hope I'm getting to be the Bitcoin man. Highly intelligent product, very awakened. He's speaking the truth the most people don't want to accept. Thank you for showcasing more brilliant. Melen, I have no clue what that word is. Sorry, I'm not a native English speaker. People on your channel, Robin, really appreciate you and your guest insights. Love his story and can tell he's very authentic, genuine product. Love how he puts his thoughts into perspective. Great jam dropping session. Such an inspiration you guys are. So happy to be part of this Bitcoiner community. So glad to have you. Nova or Nova Knet, however you are called. Yeah, it's a really cool community. The Wealth Squad. Yeah, I don't know what Wealth Squad actually is. I never asked him. But yeah, Chris Johnson is great. I have one full coin and adding more each week. Also have MSDR. Please never say how much Bitcoin you have in public. I think that's, oh man, I'm super sorry. I don't share my screen right now. I am super duper sorry. Here I am right now and you can see my screen again. I was just reading the comments here. Highly intelligent product, we're very awakened. Came for the number go up, stayed for the revolution. Great part. Exactly. Yeah. And I was just saying here, it's great that if you have one full coin, but please don't tell anyone. It's not good practice to tell your Bitcoin stack in public. If you do that, it's your choice. Like we should grant everyone the right, the freedom to tell this. I just want to get my duty out there and say, don't do it. Really cool. Then let's move on to number 7. We are coming to the top 7 podcast of 350 episodes. Think about that. 350 episodes, top 7. That's the best out of the best. This one is it? Not Robin, it's Jeff Booth. Jeff Booth, it's the oldest one of the top 10. It's 9 months ago. I think it was like March. It was beginning of March, end of February. We can probably see it here. Yeah, it was 2nd of March. This video, and it was an absolute banger. It was the first video that shot up in my videos, and it was the first video that got me monetized. This video literally monetized my channel. This video gave me a lot of hope that I can actually do it. And I released that on the first day where I didn't work. Like I worked till end of February and March. I think the 1st of March was a Sunday, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong about that. But I think 2nd of March was like a Monday. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But I think it was the first or the second day of where I didn't work anymore for the company I worked before. And the recording was 2 months before, or like 1 month before, something like that. And this video literally was the video that gave me the confidence after the recording, not after publishing and seeing the result, after the recording already, to think about quitting my job. That was the defining moment for my channel, to be honest. Talking to Jeff Booth, hearing him talk, and also afterwards I asked him, hey, like in the end of the podcast, I asked him, hey, what do you recommend young people? And he's like, go all in on Bitcoin, not just with your net worth, but also with your time. And it really hit home with me. And I was like, what am I doing? Like I'm full-time all in Bitcoin with my money, but I'm full-time all in IT security with my time. Like what the hell I'm doing? And that's what Jeff Booth basically contributed to my channel, not only monetize, not only the first big video, but the most thing that he contributed is making me quit my Fiat job and making me go all in on Bitcoin. So thank you so much, Jeff. I will be forever grateful for that inspiration that you gave there. And when I watched that, I was like, 9 months ago, a lot happened in that 9 months. it feels like. And when we move further in the future, where like Bitcoin is like the standard unit of account, medium of exchange, store of value of our generation, of our like living, what is changing on like the entrepreneurial spirit compared to like right now or like 10 years ago?
So nothing. It accelerates. And that acceleration is in service of all of us. And so for your new listeners, there is no such thing, and this is going to be hard for them to understand, because if they're living in a fiat construct, they're carrying all their baggage forward. So they're going to wonder how debt operates, how I buy a house, without realizing that the price of the house today holds a monetary premium because people store their wealth there, because if they stored it in the bank, it loses value. So, and then they have to have a house with a staggering mortgage just to try to get into the game. And all of that is stealing their time and energy to support the existing system. Whereas in the new system, the house just keeps on falling in price forever to its utility value. And the utility value then falls because the utility value of a house, it doesn't hold a monetary premium anymore. It's not a store of value, right? Because Bitcoin becomes a better store of value. And so as prices fall relative to Bitcoin, you need way less debt to service it. And so that's just one example. But political systems, we don't have a political system in this world, in this construct, that could accurately describe what Bitcoin gives us. Because all of these communism, Marxism, totalitarianism, capitalism, even capitalism, it's based on the free market. It's the idea behind capitalism as a free market, but we know we don't live in a free market at all. It's captured by money, manipulated money. We know we don't live in a democracy because you have no vote in how much money is stolen from you each year through inflation. And remember, it's not inflation from 0 to 5 or 10%. It's inflation from what the natural rate of deflation should be. And today, if the natural rate of deflation should be negative 5%, then if your inflation rate is 10%, you're getting your pocket picked by 15% a year, compounded. And so people don't realize that because they're measuring from 0. And they think, 2% inflation is okay. Well, why is 2% theft okay? Especially it's not 2%. It's a lot greater than that because we already know the natural state of a free market is deflationary. And that means every construct we have here,
and that
every construct
that hits so home with me, with Jeff. I want to give, before we talk about the video, I want to give one small nugget of information. It was for Jeff really early. I think it was like 4:30 or 5 in the morning, and it was for me like afternoon, something like that. And it was interesting because I was extremely nervous. I think on the same level nervous as I was with Michael Saylor. I think it was a very similar level of nervousness. I've never been anywhere close as nervous as I've been with Jeff Booth and Michael Saylor. The next one, like, once you got it, like, you're not as nervous. Like once you have Michael Saylor on, if like a Larry Lepard or like someone else really big comes on your show, it's not as big all of a sudden, because you already kind of leveled up your nervousness. You're kind of like, oh yeah, I did the Michael Saylor video and I'm still alive. I'm not dead, so that's a good sign. So let's do another one, and your nervousness goes a little bit down. But Jeff Booth was really good, and he really helped me through the video because I was just not a great host and a great questionnaire there. I got better over time and still not where I really want to be. But it's great speakers like Jeff Booth or like Michael Saylor. They really helped the host out a lot more that you can see on the screen. And it was a really important video for me to see it's possible and it's okay to do that, and I can do that. So yeah, that was an amazing thing. And yeah, what he said, so true. Like, the inflation rate is just like not at zero. You have to measure it from, I would even say maybe -10, -5, something like that. And from there, even 2% inflation all of a sudden is like 7% inflation, and that compounded every year. That's just too much. Now we have inflation rates of 5, 10, 20%, depending on what metrics you're looking at, depending also on what country you're looking at, and it's definitely a huge problem. Let's see what did the comment section say that early on the channel. 68-year-old, and Bitcoin has changed my life. I'm seeing life in a completely different level of the world, myself and my descendants. What an incredible gift. I've listened to 100+ hours. This is one of the most, oh wow, that's an amazing. Thank you so much. I've listened to my 100+ of Bitcoin content since 2017. This one is the most impactful interview I've ever heard. Truly appreciate your works. Thank you so much, man. That means a lot. Like, that's really good. Always great to hear Jeff and Kindergarten Cop discuss Bitcoin. Kindergarten Cop? Who's that? Who's Kindergarten Cop? I think it's a movie, but I've never did it. Excellent interview and an amazing command of English. Bravo, sir. What a coup to get Booth on. The price of tomorrow. Yeah. Congrats for a great interview, Robin. Yeah, it has been an amazing interview, and I really enjoy what Jeff Booth shared with me. And as I said before, it was fundamental in my understanding of the world, my understanding of the podcast, and my understanding of Bitcoin itself. Now, let's go to the next one. I already mentioned him before. It's Larry Lepard. I don't even know how to pronounce his last name. I think Lepard. Bitcoin now to 300K. 10-year BTC gold rush started? Question mark? No, that's not a question mark. But yeah, exclamation mark it is. Let's hear what Larry has to say.
So
a lot of people fear the same thing is happening with Bitcoin. I have an interesting, funny story maybe. When I was in Amsterdam, I was eating a falafel the day before I came, and I had a Bitcoin shirt on, and the guy was asking me like, "Hey, what is this Bitcoin thing?" And he was saying one small sentence that I was like, "That's interesting. That is the public perception of a no coiner." And he said like, "Isn't BlackRock now the owner of Bitcoin?"
Well, yeah, I mean, as TradFi comes in, I mean, certainly, look, my view on the manipulation of Bitcoin is that it's not impossible, but I also believe it isn't happening to a large degree. And I don't think it's likely. A number of reasons that make it better than gold. One, you can see all the transactions on chain, so you can see the addresses. Two, so it's pretty hard to create paper Bitcoin. I mean, people have done it. I mean, Sam Bankman-Fried did it, and others have done it. And there'll be, and there are derivatives on it. As long as there are derivatives and futures on it, that's paper. And so, there is theoretically, if those markets became enormous, if those markets became 100 times the size of the daily trading on chain, well, that would be a different matter. Then maybe there'd be manipulation taking place. And by the way, that's what's going on in gold. I mean, the amount of gold that's traded on, on exchanges on a daily basis is huge multiples of the underlying amount that we mine, in any given year. And so, it's a tail wagging the dog situation, but that's not the case in Bitcoin. And the futures and options are mild or small compared to the total outstanding and the total tradable. So the other thing about Bitcoin is, I mean, gold is easier to manipulate in the sense that, gold has never gone up 5x in a 12-month period. And so,
if you're going to manipulate something, you better be sure you have a printing press behind you so that when you get on the wrong side of the trade, you can print the money to cover your margin calls, right? And that's kind of what I think they did in the various times when they attacked gold. Because, they'd attack it and they'd probably get underwater, but they could sit there long enough and they had unlimited printing press, and so they could suppress it. When something goes up 5x in a year, which Bitcoin did, in the 2019-20 area, 2019, 2020, that creates one hell of a big hole. And by the way, you don't have a BIS, you don't have coordinated central bank actions. The central banks don't really even understand what Bitcoin is. So while I'm sure they're all sitting there thinking, oh shit, this is an alarm bell that we don't want to have going off. And it's possible they're even thinking, how are we going to figure this out? How are we going to suppress it? I wouldn't doubt me that they've got a working group working on that. I think that to think they've actually done it and got it in place and are ready to go with it, I'm skeptical. I don't believe that's the case. So, and I don't think they will in the future. I think this thing is going to move too quickly and it's going to overwhelm them.
I partnered up with Coin Vigilante. This is the most beautiful Bitcoin timepiece that I ever saw created by anyone. Look at that beauty. I love it so much. Coin Vigilante made a perfect Bitcoin watch. That's the perfect, subtle, elegant way to go out there and show that you are a Bitcoiner. And that watch brand is Bitcoin only. And Coin Vigilante just dropped a completely new and amazing Genesis edition of their watch collections. You have the date of the first ever mined Bitcoin block in there, and of course also the block height and which epoch we are currently in. I love the level of detail they put in this masterpiece, and make sure to check out those amazing Coin Vigilante timepieces down in the descriptions. I love those watches so much. If you watch or listen to my podcast on a regular basis, I guess you already bought some Bitcoin. And now the most important step is to keep the Bitcoin. Keep them secure in a hardware wallet. My personal recommendation for hardware wallet is the BitBox. It's super secure. It's simple to set up. It's also a perfect gift for a friend who has still their Bitcoin on an exchange. And you can get a 5% discount with the code Robin at the checkout. Visit bitbox.swiss/Robin to get your BitBox. And the next step is to really level up your sovereignty as an individual. You have to have the most secure self-custody setup. You have to secure your own devices. You have to protect your privacy. You have to set up an inheritance plan. And depending on where you live, you even want to have a plan B, a citizenship where you can move in case something goes really wrong. And through all those steps, the Bitcoin way is guiding you through step by step. And if you visit thebitcoinway.com/partners/Robin, you even get a 30-minute free call to find out how you can level up your sovereignty. 100%. I'm 100% with Larry here, and it's a great observation. Also, it's interesting that part in particular was so popular with that video. Larry is a great guy. I met him in Abu Dhabi also in person. We talked in the party a little later, and he brings out his book. I think his book is out. I don't know if you can buy it already, but you can probably pre-order it already. I think it's called The Big Print, if I'm not completely mistaken. And he's just a really great guy, and the book is also really good. And I would definitely encourage people to get it. And Larry is one of the great thinkers in Bitcoin, especially someone that comes from gold, is like kind of a gold bug and came here. I also asked him actually what he thinks about Peter Schiff, and let's say like that, he didn't speak highly of him, but I do agree with Peter Schiff on like the let's say the outer part of it, where the fundamental basis of like what's wrong with our system, but he's just wrong on the solution one. And I like that Larry Lepard and many other gold bugs actually understand Bitcoin and switch to the Bitcoin side. And yeah, it's great to hear from Larry. He has a lot of
a lot of experience and a lot of wiseness in his explanations, and it's just great to have in the Bitcoin community. Some of the comments: Larry is a great combination of level-headed and positive and well-informed. Always such a pleasure to listen to him. Larry is a legend, no other word for it. As always, great content from Larry Lepard. Thanks, Robin, for having him on. Where do you find such amazing guests? Twitter, mostly. This is the best BTC interview show on YouTube. Wow, thank you so much. I don't know if I'm the best, but I try. I'm probably the one with the highest quantity of interviews. Thank you so much, Uncool Hodler, for being there. Joe, I love your comments always, Joe. I've been waiting and holding my breath to see Larry on your podcast, Robin. This is one of the best contents about Bitcoin and so much more on the internet ever. Larry did not disappoint. He's just absolute fantastic. He gives so many nuggets of information and wisdom. I don't know Larry personally, but I already think of him as a father figure of sorts. Can't thank you enough, both of you. Yeah, thank you so much, Joe. It's really great to have here. We have some German comments I will not read because mostly your people are English speaking, but it's basically great guests, and it's an amazing job you're doing. Great interview, brother. Larry is the man. Yeah, amazing. Larry is spot on. Amazing. Yeah, Larry is actually really good in that. And thank you so much, Larry, also for coming on. But now we are coming on. We have the top 10, top 9, top 8, top 7. This was top 6. Larry Lepard becoming the top 5 all-time. No, not all time. This year of Bitcoin, I will probably make also an all-time list more at some point. But now we're coming to top 5, and it is someone that actually has 2 videos in the top 10. But I don't want to have one person 2 times in the top 10, so I only made his main video, his bigger video, into the top 10. But Peter Dunworth shared this tab. Peter Dunworth actually has 2 videos on the top 10. With that, Fred Kruger got the 10th place. Otherwise, he would have been number 11. Just as a background information, if you later look up my most popular videos on YouTube, you will see Peter Dunworth actually 2 times in there. But I only want to feature one guy one time. So unfortunately, Peter, I switched your second video with Fred Kruger. So let's listen to what he has to say about the Bitcoin price and some crazy predictions. People are coming out and saying it goes to 1 million. Then there are people coming out, it goes to 10 million. Then you are coming out, it goes to $7 billion. So I think people that didn't do the research work just will call you crazy, I guess. I don't know how was your experience with that. I'm really interested in then how do you... Did I call Peter Dunworth here crazy? Did I do this? I don't know. You come from that number. We are now 72,000 euros. Maybe we will release this podcast in 2-3 weeks. So probably maybe we are already at 100,000. Let's see where we are in 2-3 weeks. How do we come from that number now to 1 million to 10 million to even more than that to billions? Because even from 1 million to 1 billion, this is a huge step in valuations. How do you imagine we are coming to those numbers?
There's a really short answer to this, and I can give you an extended one. The too long didn't read of this is that the world has a collateral problem at this point in time, and Bitcoin is the best form of collateral ever invented. My expectation is not only is it the best form of collateral, it is the best form of money ever invented. And we have those 3 functions of money being store of value, medium of exchange, and unit of account. The fact is that Bitcoin is the first time in history that you have one asset that is the dominant, the apex predator of all of those 3 functions of money at the same time, with the ability to be collateral. Now, all of a sudden, that completely redefines the space as far as how much wealth can be absorbed by Bitcoin. And this is where probably a better way of thinking about it is, what our friend Jeff Booth talks about, where he says it's impossible to value the future system from within the existing one. And this is where what I try to do is put a valuation framework around Bitcoin to highlight how absurd it's going to get very quickly. And the thinking and the rationale on, say, a $7 billion Bitcoin is quite simply, once people understand what this is, and we have the bulk of it tied up in collateral, and we don't have the need to sell it because we've got a functioning credit market on top of Bitcoin, then Bitcoin will facilitate the entire global trade because it's the best form of money ever invented. Now, I don't think it's
Absolutely, and Peter Dunworth is bang on with that one. I think the $7 billion price target of him, it's not saying, we will reach at that point the 7 billion. It's more of like opening up your mind to the possibility that the US dollar has no value at all. It's just Bitcoin. You have to measure everything in Bitcoin. And that's where I think he's going and where he tries to shift the conversation, because you can shout out any price prediction and it will be true at some point. 7 billion, 50 billion, $1 trillion per Bitcoin, $1 trillion per Satoshi. Who cares? Because the US dollar is going to zero and Bitcoin is going to infinity. And therefore, everything from zero to everything from like 100K to infinity is a fair Bitcoin price prediction. I think base case, let's see if the US dollar, it's just a matter of time. Now we're at around 100K. We dive sometimes a little bit above, sometimes a little down. And the crazy part is it will go up massively. How much? To infinity. Peter Dunworth was a great one. And the top comment was, I'm sorry, what did he say? I wasn't listening. I was buying more Bitcoin. True. I get sometimes real FOMO when I listen to that. Peter Dunworth provides an industrial dose of hopium. Forget. Get to the chopper. Get to the Bitcoin. I should say that more often. Get to the chopper. Fantastic interview. Also, Peter, also great job explaining BTC. Arnold is a great host and Peter is a great guest. The Bitcoinator. I don't know. I don't know why the Arnold Schwarzenegger comments were on this podcast so popular. Depending on maybe in other ones were also more popular. Then what if Peter's 7 billion target is even 1% correct? We are really close to a big price target anyways. 10% of 7 billion is on 700 million. So this would be 70 million. Yeah, that's still a big number, right? Really cool. Perfect. And thank you. Then we come to the next. Always when I say, when I end with a guest, I always say thank you so much for being on. And because I say it so much, I always want to say it at the end of announcing one, which is really interesting. Now we have the next one. We had now top 5, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. That was top 5. Peter Dunworth is top 5 video. Now we're coming to the elite level Bitcoiners here on this podcast. And we're coming to no less than Max Kaiser himself. Here, Max Kaiser, Bitcoin will capture 65% of all assets. And now it's just 0.1% of all assets. And Max Kaiser explains why and what's happening. That's the most famous clip of this podcast episode with Max Kaiser.
Decry the volatility is a reason not to own Bitcoin. Haven't really thought about it much. It's particularly if they look at the dollar and say, well, there's no volatility in the dollar. And I'm like, that's true, but you have a mathematically guaranteed decrease in purchasing power with the dollar. So, that's part of the game of the dollar, is that it looks stable, but it's leaching value every second of every day from your hard work is being leached away. Bitcoin is the opposite in that you are gaining purchasing power for your hard work every single day. And yes, the price vacillates in fiat money terms is an indication of the weakness of fiat money. It has nothing to do with the weakness or relative strength of Bitcoin. 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. Just like 1 ounce of gold equals 1 ounce of gold. Gold is now hitting new all-time highs. It's still 1 ounce of gold. That the amount, the supply, the global supply, which is roughly up maybe 3% a year, it's not dramatically changed from a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but the price is up dramatically. What's that telling us? That's telling us that the fiat money world is losing confidence. Okay. Now, if you look at Bitcoin versus gold, well, gold's been around for a long time. It's got a total market cap of roughly $13-14 trillion. Bitcoin to maybe $1.2 trillion. Bitcoin's going to at least equal the market capitalization of gold in dollar terms. So you've got now a 13-14x just to get to gold, which is a lot higher than the current price. And then, of course, it should exceed gold. It should also demonetize not only gold, but demonetize the bond market, demonetize the property market, demonetize the stock market. So now you're talking about Bitcoin worth 100 trillion, 200 trillion, 300 trillion. These are all completely within the realm of highly probable going forward. And so therefore, don't look at the price. The price is the least interesting data point of Bitcoin. It tells you just about nothing versus the hash rate or the difficulty adjustment or any of the other underlying metrics of the protocol are much more telling and informative about what's happening than the price. The price is just a proxy for how quickly the fiat money world is disintegrating.
If you watch or listen to... no, we're not watching my advertisement at this point. It's an amazing explanation. By the way, I also think maybe that's a great possibility now for me to thank all the sponsors that made this podcast possible. I couldn't do this full time without paying more on top of each other without my sponsors. But the sponsors basically make that possible that I can do that full time. Without them, this podcast just wouldn't be here. I sometimes hear complaints that like, oh, why do you do sponsors? Why do you do ads? Like that's kind of bad for you and for your reputation. You know what's bad for me in my image? If I don't produce videos. If I don't have the money for doing that's basically, that's the basic math of that. So I'm so thankful for them. They are not only there for making that podcast possible, they're also helping out in a really big way in many other ways. Some of them really have gotten to be friends. I have Tony, for example, who has been on in the podcast 3 times already. Carlos from Coin Vigilante. I really value him a lot. And yeah, the BitBox, it's actually the longest one that has been the longest with me now. I have a great relationship with them also. It really grew into a partnership and not just like advertisement. And that's what I like. And I like long-term partnership. Let's see where it goes long-term. But they made this podcasting year possible. So then let's see some of the comments. Saylor and now Keiser, the 2 biggest spokespeople in Bitcoin. You're killing it. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I had Saylor and Keiser on my podcast. This was really, really good. Joe again with one of the top comments here. Max is the OG of OGs, the godfather, the big daddy of everyone in my eyes. His videos helped me a lot. It's great that your channel has OGs like Max as well as new Bitcoiners, and the way to welcome everyone, Robin. there's always something new for anyone to learn from everyone. That's basically the thing I try to do with my Bitcoin channel. I try to get as many people on as possible, so we can learn from as many people as possible and as deep as possible. So that's kind of the thing I try to do with that. Yeah, really cool. Thank you so much for all those comments. Let's come on to number 3. We have now the third most watched, third most popular podcast ever on this channel, but also this year. And it is Gary Cardone. Adoption is way faster than you think. Gary Cardone, let's see what he has to say in that way. Before we come to our end routine, where do you see like Bitcoin in the next 10 years? What do you expect from Bitcoin, from the community? What do you expect happening? With that last 4-year cycle was amazing with the first publicly traded company, the ETFs happening, with El Salvador happening. What do you expect anything from the next 4-8 years that is coming?
I think it's going to be exciting. I mean, I think we're going to see adoption. The cool thing is I don't think anybody's going to have to wait 4 years. I would predict by December 31, 2024, it's going to be extremely evident to everyone what the hell this whole Bitcoin thing's about.
I love it so much that we actually have today is the 22nd of December. I pre-produced that because I'm going to Miami soon, and I'm going to my family in Austria soon. So I have to pre-produce things, but this will be published on the 31st of December, 2024, except that this date that he says, and he's like, that date will be where it's very obvious. And since the recording, Trump announced that he is promoting it. We have the ETFs, but I think the ETFs happened even before this video. We hit the 100K. I still think that it's not obvious to everyone, but his point stands where it has been growing a lot, and it has made an amazing shift in the eyes of the people.
I think you're going to see demand that even Satoshi didn't even imagine. Okay, it's the angles on this are so staggering. 4 to 8 years, 8 years, it'll be continue to hold the title as the greatest investment in history. After that, I'm not so sure. I would look at this as a 4 to 8 year hold. If you're just looking at Bitcoin, I would not come into Bitcoin thinking you're going to buy here and sell in 3 months. The play here is to buy it, put it away safely, continue to buy it on a daily cost basis, monthly cost basis. Okay, this is a very cool 401k pension retirement program that if you just put it away and let it do the work for you, you then go out and do your day job, whatever makes you really happy. You sitting on a pile of Bitcoin is not your purpose. And it is not going to make you free, and it's not going to make you happy.
And this podcast, I think, was so popular, not necessarily because of Bitcoin. It was popular because the freedom that we talked about was really good. It was really good where you talked about, okay, just holding Bitcoin, just sacking as many Satoshis as possible. That's not the goal. The goal should be being there for the community and stacking sats and providing value for the community. Let's see some interesting comments. And yeah, Gary Cardone, wow, what an amazing podcast. I did also with him already a second time. Well, the second time was already also really, really popular and really, really good. Didn't make it in the top 10 though. It's great to see Gary. Let's now see some top comments. First one from Wilson. It's great to see Gary's understanding of Bitcoin over the last few years. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Gary is super authentic, no bullshit. From Vavo, how did I not know Gary before? Thank you both for this conversation.
Lovely. Orange Bird sent me $20. Hey, Robin, as always, love the show. So glad you're in the space. Keep on doing what you're doing. You fill a really nice and needed niche in the space. There are many super thanks. $15 from Happy Travel Trails. Keep up the good work, Robin. Elton Dozy, $5. Great guest and episode. Keep up the good work. Oh, Michael, 100 episodes, mind. Nice proof of work. Absolutely. Oh yeah, that's why. I think that's why I get the super thanks a lot, because that's the 100th episode that I did. Now I have 350. So yeah, that was really good. Congrats on the 100 from Remo. Remo was another guest. He's also doing really good. Yeah, that was my 100th episode. It's great that the 100th episode made it to the top 10 episodes ever produced. So thankful for Gary. Really, really cool. Let's move on to the final two. The second most popular podcast episode ever produced is from, and I will stumble on the name, but it is from Stephen Pirinaut. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Astrophysicist. And he says Bitcoin market cap will hit 100 trillion US dollar. Yes, sir, it will. And now let's see what he has to say about Bitcoin and the power law. The second video where the power law was at least like this is the actual Bitcoin power law video. The one with Fred Kruger here, the number 10. It was not only about power law. It was also a lot about something else, but power law was also a topic of discussion. But let's see what Stephen has to say. Michael Saylor is not, I feel like, not that famous for making price prediction, but he actually made one at the Bitcoin Nashville, like the first time that I saw him actually making bull, bear, and thin case. Otherwise, he only more talked about, it could go to that trillion of market cap, but he never really put like a time and a value to it. And I think his base bear case was like 3 million at year 2045, and his bull case was 49 million, which is a big bandwidth also. Would that the power law also would that the power law also suggest in that bandwidth?
Yes, I checked that. His midpoint was 13 million for 2045, and he didn't quite expose all the details of his model, but his model basically had the growth rate coming down over time, which is what happens with the power law. And so it almost sounded as if he was using something that was qualitatively similar to power law. So he had 13 million for the midpoint. I would regress to 9 million. So, it's in the ballpark of 10 million.
Yeah, I think.
And
that was really interesting. We looked at that. We looked at that video, and with Stephen, we really went deep into the power law and trying to explain it, and also trying to have use cases of like power law of Bitcoin on top of gold and instead of US dollars and stuff like that. It was a really good one. It surprised me almost that it was the second biggest one. It was like really popular. But I liked it a lot. I learned a lot about the power law. This was probably the one episode where there's a lot of math in there that I didn't understand. That's why it surprised me that it was that popular, because I thought like, there's a lot of things in there that is not as easy to grasp, and that's why it might be harder to understand, and that's why people might not like it that much. But yeah, people like to learn, I guess. And that's the top comment with over 100 likes. I'm noticing a pattern here. The people who are most adamant about Bitcoin succeeding are of higher intelligence. I 100% agree with that, and that's a really good one. Also here, Robin Seyr, I would consider myself one of the more silent viewers that you have, but never commented.
first comment. Thank you so much for commenting. Felt like commenting today. Thank you for all your hard work and delivering the interesting content on Bitcoin. The Paula is such a fascinating discovery, especially as it pertains to a financial asset. Really cool. Thank you so much. That was really good from astrophysicist Stephen Paranoid. I don't know how to say it. Paranoid not. Paranoid is something different. Paranoid, maybe. Maybe it's something like that. Now, let's come to the number one. And number one can only be one guy. Only one guy can be, at least on this channel, be the number one guy. And everyone that is listening to this and watching this probably knows it already, but it is Michael the freaking Saylor. And I have some stories for you about him right after the video, right when we come to the origin of the podcast also. But now just let's listen a little bit to Michael Saylor. And it's hard because like he has such great answers, and we could really like pick out like 30 minutes of that, but we are already over 1 hour. So let's just start listening of how he thinks Bitcoin will scale. And it will start off with his very popular
But that doesn't really address your second question, which is the bigger and more important question. How does Bitcoin scale? And I think the answer to that question is Bitcoin scales in myriad ways. To say thousands of ways might be an understatement, maybe tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of ways. There are 8 billion people on the planet, and every single one of them that encounters Bitcoin is going to think about how they wish to interact with Bitcoin, and they've all got a different opinion. The 3-year-old that is interested in Bitcoin will have a different view than a 15-year-old, will have a different view than a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old, a 40-year-old. An 85-year-old in China will have a different view than a 92-year-old person in Russia. And they will have a different view than someone in the United States in their mid-60s. And their views will be different depending upon your religion, whether, what your sect is, what your profession is, what your physical capabilities are. And so there's going to be a lot of views there. Then there's 330 million companies in the world. And a few of them. There's Apple. When Apple encounters Bitcoin, and they're one of the more important companies in the world, 1 billion people rely upon them. When Apple encounters Bitcoin, I think they may look at it and think, well, wait a minute, Bitcoin, multi-signature, cloud, what if we actually make the Apple Watch a signing device and combine it with the iPhone and combine it with the third signing device on a laptop, and then we do something with the cloud, and Apple becomes a bank that has hundreds of billions of dollars of assets in it, and we secure that via the Apple cloud. And I suppose if Apple does that, then Google will take a different view. Well, we don't want Apple to do that. We want that to be done in Android. And at some point, Samsung will say, well, wait a minute, Samsung phones are used for Android, and we can put the secure element in that, and we'll take a different view. And at some point, you're going to have Qualcomm say, well, wait a minute, we provide the chips that are used in these phones, and maybe our chip, maybe it ought to have a Bitcoin miner in it, or maybe our chip ought to have a secure element to store your cryptographic keys so that our chip can be the right signing device. And then you're going to have all the Chinese companies, and the Chinese government will say, well, maybe we don't want Apple and Google to do this, and we want our companies, Huawei, to do this. And so you're going to have governments that'll take a view. You're going to have companies that are going to take a view. You're going to have other companies like Block, and Block is going to say, well, we want to be better than Apple or Google, and so Block will ship the BitKey, and Block will embed Bitcoin support into Cash App. And Block will do that in the United States. But Block doesn't operate in China. And there's going to be a company in China, and they're going to think, well, maybe we'll just copy what Block does, and we'll just do it in China. And that's going to work for them because the Chinese government's probably going to make it very difficult for an American company to do what American companies do in China. So then there's going to be some people that are going to say, well, I don't want to trust a company. Okay, well, you know, when you actually buy a cold card or you buy a Trezor or a Ledger, you're trusting a company. So what do you mean by not trust a company, right? Well, I'm not going to trust a company to store my keys. Well, so what are you going to do? I'm going to buy one of those titanium plates, and I'm going to hammer my keys on the titanium plate. Okay, well, how's that going to get shipped to you? Well, I'm going to FedEx that. You're going to trust that company? Right. I'm going to put it in a bank, safe deposit. That's another company, right? There's going to be a whole set of people. They'll take a view that I don't trust that company, but I'll trust this, or I'll trust myself. And that's going to evolve, right? I actually think, how does Bitcoin scale? You know, what you're going to end up with is a set of entities that self-custody on the base layer, the OGs, you know, Bitcoin maximalists, especially the ones with large amounts of Bitcoin, and they will self-custody. Then you will see a set of Bitcoin banks. Cash App is a Bitcoin bank. Fidelity and Coinbase will be Bitcoin banks. Standard Charter and other custodians, NYDIG and Anchorage, they will be Bitcoin banks. You'll probably see 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 Bitcoin banks, and they will be exchanges, custodians. They'll start to offer other services, maybe trading, maybe yield, maybe credit, or maybe just buy, sell, and custody. But you'll see them, and then, you know, how will the scale? Well, you can send Bitcoin cash tag to cash tag right now, and it's instant and free, and you'll see a lot of that layer 3 custodial transactions going on. But when there's 50,000 or 100,000 Bitcoin banks, they will want to transact high speed with each other, but they probably won't go to the base layer. They'll probably go to a layer 2, maybe a Lightning. And so you'll see a lot of layer 2 protocols, Lightning being the obvious one, where people open up channels, and you'll see a layer 3 to a layer 3 do high frequency final settlements or settlements with a layer 2. Maybe I want to do 100,000 transactions an hour, you know, in a channel system between 42,000 counterparties or 11,000 or something. So I think you're going to see a growth in layer 2s, a growth in layer 3s. You're going to see the transactions on layer 1 get bigger. I mean, I don't think that Bitcoin scales by $22 transactions. You know, half the transaction, the average transaction size is going to go to 2,000, then 20,000, then 200,000, then 2 million, then 20 million. Maybe at some point you'll see, you know, the smallest transactions are, you know, million fiat terms. I mean, in Bitcoin terms, who knows? But you'll see the transactions get much larger on the base layer. You'll see the fees will go up. The block rewards will go down, right? There'll be an explosion in layer 2 options. There'll be an explosion in layer 3 options. One day you'll get to the point where, you know, if everybody with an iPhone can buy, sell, and send Bitcoin instantly on the iPhone, right? You might see 1 billion transactions a day on that layer 3 network, and how will that integrate with Google and everything else? Who knows? I think there'd be layer 4s. One way that the Bitcoin is scaling right now is with the ETFs. So what is an ETF? You know, an ETF is wrapped Bitcoin in a way. It's like I can send you a share of IBIT, and they're moving 500 million to $1 billion a day in transaction fees. So you're talking $250 billion or $300 billion a year in transactions in the IBIT network. Okay, so if I said I got an app and people are going to do $300 billion of payments on it, you would think that's scaled. Well, it is scaling. And people would say, well, some people don't like certain types of scaling. They'll be like, there are Bitcoiners that don't like the idea that there's money flowing into ETFs. But what I would say is 95% of the economic benefit from the arrival of the ETFs has gone to the Bitcoiners that don't have ETFs, that don't.
That's an amazing. It's hard to find a cut in there because he speaks in just like such a great manner where everything is kind of connected in a red line, and you don't have that like cut off point where you can cut in between. It's I have no clue how someone can speak that good, but I hope with like 50, 60, 70, I'm at his level in speaking, but I have a long way to go. Oh man, like I'm not even like 0.001% there. Really cool. Michael Saylor. I cannot even begin how big this was, and I will. Maybe I will go to top comments and later I will talk about Michael Saylor in a small story, and we'll explain a little bit more about that. Love how a host can Saylor. First top comment with almost 300 likes from JF9484. Love how a host can ask Saylor one question and his answer is half an hour long. That's not a criticism. I'm amazed at his knowledge, logic, passion for all things Bitcoin. Incredible man. Saylor does interviews with small people as well. Even if, that was crazy. Right now I have 12,400 subscribers. Maybe when this comes out, probably like 12.5 or 12.6, something like that. I don't know. And the interesting thing is Saylor agreed to come on my podcast when I had 2,000 subscribers, 2,500 or something like that. He came really early on. Saylor is the biggest. Saylor is Bitcoin greatest salesman. He certainly is what made me buy my first Bitcoin from Bitcoin Paul. Very true. He's a really great salesperson in the best way, shape, or form. From Paul Manning, seriously, one of the best Saylor interviews I've seen. He was reflecting on things I haven't heard him speak about before. Good questions. I actually got that feedback a lot in that interview. It seems like there was a new stuff in there for people that they never heard. And yeah, especially the last like 30 to 40 minutes was, at least for me, new. I didn't listen to every Saylor interview, but it seems like it resonated with the audience a lot. And now we have the top 10. And I have a small Saylor story as I teased already, and I want to share that with you. 1.5 years ago, you can see here me, myself, Saylor, and Saifedean Ammous at the Bitcoin Prague conference. Back then, I had a very small following on Twitter. I had no podcast. I didn't even publish one episode. I had nothing at all in the Bitcoin scene to show for really. But I was a fanboy of Saylor and I was a fanboy of Saifedean. And both of them were standing next to each other. I was like sprinting there. The bodyguard of Saylor looked weirdly at me because I think I was just walking too fast up to Saylor. And I asked like a fanboy, hey, like, I really want a photo with you guys. Can I do it? And Saylor said, yeah, like, come on, let's do it. And this was basically my first contact ever with Saylor and with Saifedean. And yeah, it was amazing. And I want to do that story, and I wrote it down. At this time, as I said, I had no significant following on X. I had not put out a single episode. My YouTube was under 300 subscriber, basically non-existing. I had no Spotify, no Fountain, no other podcasts, no income stream. That's a big one. I had nothing at all coming my way in that way. And when you look at that, what happened from this photo 1.5 years later is I had Saylor on my podcast. I debated very long if I should say it publicly or not. I don't know, because nobody says it publicly, but I don't care. I'm invited to his 100K Bitcoin party in Miami that he planned. I'm really looking forward to that one. And that in 1.5 years from being not known in Bitcoin at all to having the biggest people in Bitcoin, as you have seen in there. And that's only possible with proof of work. I don't have a father in Bitcoin that helped me get those contacts. No, honestly, I didn't know anyone when I came into here. The only thing I did is proof of work. I started in 2023, in the beginning of the year, with 5 tweets per day. As I said, here, I had nothing. I only posted 5 tweets per day since half a year up to the point of this photo. And I grew a few thousand followers, 2,000-3,000, something like that. Nothing really significant on Twitter. And this was basically the point where then I got way more serious about it. I was I do this 5 tweets per day. I put this proof of work in, but still nobody knows me. I was walking through Bitcoin Prague and nobody knew me. I was I want to change that. I want to go deep in the Bitcoin community. I want to exchange thoughts with everyone. And that's where I'm right now. I started a podcast. I started other things. I did go to conferences more and more. So it's just proof of work. If you're not where you are right now, the only thing the only thing holding you back is your proof of work. If you put in the proof of work, you can get to almost everywhere. From not knowing Michael Saylor, from being an insignificant person in the Bitcoin community, from being not known by anyone, by walking around at Bitcoin Prague and not being recognized by anyone, to being invited to Michael Saylor's personal 100K party in Miami, to his house. I'm oh, that was quick. It's just proof of work. It's nothing else. And that's what I want to give in this video also a little bit, showing not only the greatest clips of my Bitcoin podcast this year, but showing that if you do obsess with something and put the proof of work in 60 hours, 70 hours or something like that, what I usually do in a week, not sustainable over the long run, but right now I can do that. You can get actually really, really far. And I'm surprised how far actually. I'm surprised with all the results. I was not thinking I go where I'm already now. I thought this will be mid 2025. I underestimated how welcoming the Bitcoin community is, especially in the Bitcoin community if you want to do something. So yeah, that's just my small rant about how great the Bitcoin community is and how amazing and how grateful I am, how amazing the Bitcoin community welcomes someone with a proper proof of work. So if you're on your journey, keep doing what you're doing. Now, I want to show off some of the things, the statistics that I got shared, just to be transparent with everyone and go about and showing you what has been happening in the background. And this is, I will start with Spotify. I will share Spotify, Twitter, and YouTube, and I will go with the same kind of route where Spotify is my smallest platforms, also the platform where right now I don't make any money. On the other platforms, I make natively on the platform money plus the sponsors. And this one is Spotify. It's maybe you're listening to this on Spotify, maybe you're listening on this on Fountain or any other podcast platform, or Apple podcast, or Amazon or something like that. Then you're included in that podcast 2024 Wrapped for creators of Spotify. Let's check it out. We are here. We are counting up 21, 22, 24. That is the 2024 Wrapped Spotify. Let's see. Robin Seyr, Wrapped season is here. I love the colors here. Let's go. Fans were really loving your show in 2024. Give it up for your new fans. My new fans are 99% of your listeners. Obviously, because I started December 2023. So probably 99.999% of my listeners came in 2024. But yeah, super year. It was my starting year, basically. And so 99% of all listeners discovered me also this year. Probably like very close to 100% actually. Your fans have a clear favorite. Oh, favorite episode, I guess. Yeah, of course. Your top episode was Michael Saylor. Bitcoin is economic immortality. I love that sentence of his. But that's the thing. Like, I loved it so much, but I didn't show it in the clip before because the data showed me that people actually liked something else more. It was streamed. Wow. It was streamed 999% plus more than your average episode. So it was very popular against my average episode. Then let's go further. Ever wondered who your audience is? Yes, I wondered that a lot. Let's break it down. My listeners by age, 3% are between 18 and 24, only 3%. 25 to 29, 11%. 30 to 34, 19%. 35 to 44 is 40%. It's the biggest age range. 45 to 54 is 19%, and over 55 is 8%. And I know on YouTube I have 7% of my listeners over 65. So Spotify seems to be a little bit more skewed toward younger listener actually than YouTube, which is really interesting to see. Let's see. Where in the world have you been? Oh, in 2024, your show traveled the globe. Oh, wow, really? 81 countries. Wow, that's a lot. Just on Spotify, 81 countries. And of course, United States of America was your top country. Your fans have great taste. I guess so. Other than your show, they also loved. Let's see, what are the shows that the people also watched? I probably have to make some partnerships going for, like, not collaborations with them. Joe Rogan. Okay, that will be hard to partner up with. Joe Rogan will be long till I have a collaboration with Joe Rogan. But yeah, number one show of people that watch my podcast also love Joe Rogan. Then we have Mr. Obnoxious, Peter McCormack, obviously the What Bitcoin Did podcast, or now no longer What Bitcoin Did podcast. We also had Lex Friedman podcast. I love Lex Friedman. Like that's, it's probably like, it's a really good one. I really like Lex Friedman. Then we have Patrick Bat David, great guy, great podcast. I personally don't listen to him a lot, but he definitely has a great podcast going. And very good, Simply Bitcoin, my guys from Simply Bitcoin, Nico, and Nico. Oh, I'm blanking on his name. I'm blanking so hard on his name. I had him on, so I'm super sorry. Opti, yeah. Nico and Opti, shout out to you guys from Simply Bitcoin. Let's go. What did people listen? Pop, rap, and hip hop. Yeah, rap, hip hop, live. Like it a lot. Audiobook genres. Oh, you really get into the weeds of my audience. Business and career, political science, number 2, and number 3 is self-help. Oh, interesting. Then we have listeners can't keep their eyes off you. Listeners can't keep my eyes off you. I mean, if they're only listening, they don't have their eyes on me, right? Oh man, it's been a long day. Oh, interesting, nice. My show is in the top 5% of video podcasts on Spotify. Are there so few video podcasts on Spotify? Like, wow, top 5 is, wow. I'm amazed. I would love to see how many video podcasts there are on Spotify now. Shout out to your biggest fans for keeping you at the top of your game. Let's see what that's all about. You are a top 10 show for 1.91k fans. So basically 2,000 people. For 2,000 people, I'm a top 10 show. For 1,000 people, I'm a top 5 show. That's amazing. Oh yeah, you are the number 1 show. Let's see if there is someone that I'm also number 1 show. Let's see. For 170 fans, I am the number 1 show. Huh? I feel really honored. Like that's amazing. Imagine like a room full of 200 people. Wow, really cool. I shout out to the people where I'm the top podcast. That's amazing. Your top fans obviously listen to me 3.8 times more than your other listeners. Otherwise, they would not be top fans. Let's see. What kind of creator are you? Oh, nice animations there. Spotify did a really good job. Countries, episode length, and publishing frequency. I am your creative personality is the storyteller. I mean, I facilitate storytelling for all my guests. So I guess it's a fair thing to it. My podcast is the storyteller, less myself. I can also speak a lot with my stories. Your fans have entertained the conversations. Now, what are we getting? I have 12 comments. Yeah, I know Spotify just revealed that feature, so that you can even have comments on Spotify. It's not that long, so that's funny. And yeah, that's why also Zach Mahoney was the most commented episode, because it's a recent one. So like Saylor was not in there. Saylor couldn't be commented on and stuff like that. So it's a feature I think that came in November. It's a very recent one, I feel like. Yeah, really cool. I think that's it, right? Robin Seyr, thank you for giving people something to talk about. But it's not over yet. Keep the conversation going and share with your fans. Learn how to grow in your show in 2025. Let's check this out. Thank you so much, Spotify. Really cool. That was a great one. Let's keep it going. Some more analytics before we close the show. Here we have Twitter. I just want to show this to you guys. My Twitter analytics, they're not that interesting. I had way more in the first half of the year than the second half of the year, engagement and impressions, because I just stopped doing a lot of Twitter stuff. To be honest, I just like try to focus more on the podcast than on short form tweets, which will change. Maybe next year, maybe next to next year. But I really like Twitter. But right now, my focus was just on Spotify and YouTube and all those things. Now, YouTube statistics. Let's see. What can we share here? Share this. Let's share this tab. We had 1.3 million views only on videos. Then we also had almost 400,000 views on the shorts. I also stopped with the shorts a few months ago. I will keep them coming again next year, but right now, full focus on the podcast. Maybe I can share a little bit of the audience also, which is also super interesting. Also, like, what are other people watching of my channel? Simply Bitcoin again, Rajat Soni, he's a great guy. Swarm Bitcoin, Invest Answers, Anthony Pompliano, Luke Mikic, my financial friend. That's an interesting one. Bitcoin University, Matthew Crada, of course, Bitcoin News, Todd Kruger's YouTube channel, Fred Kruger was also on my show, British Huddle, Luck Davis, Saving Minds Connect. Yeah. Oh. Those two I don't know at all. The other ones are new, but those two I have to check out. Yeah, really cool. Then we see also the age again. We see the countries again. It's pretty much the same thing than Spotify. And with that, I reveal now the plan for 2025. Will be really fun to see where we go in 2025. But my commitment stands. I did 350 episodes this year. I will do 365 episodes next year. So, and not only that, to my regular podcast comes additionally a new weekly show to that. It will be a live show, and there will be other great YouTubers involved in that. I'm now in the talking point where this show will probably be launched around February or March or maybe Q2 of next year, but it will be so freaking awesome. I'm really looking forward to that. One of my goals is also in 2025 that I have help in the post-production, because it's just a lot of work to produce next year. What is it? 420 shows or like episodes of shows. Will be fun. And I have the goal. I don't put a lot of emphasis on output goals. I usually try to hit input goals, but one output goal would be hitting 100,000 subscribers here on YouTube. I would love that. And I will work tirelessly to get there next year, 2025. But my focus is on the main input goals. What can I do? This one, I cannot influence that much. People have to subscribe. I cannot subscribe for people, but I can put out great content, and that's my goal, basically. And that's it. That was a wrap. That was Bitcoin 2024. Thank you so much for everyone that is listening and watching every day or every week or every month, or just like 1-2 videos this year. I don't care how much you watch. Being here and being a member of this community and driving Bitcoin adoption forward in any way, shape, or form, it's just an amazing thing that you can do. This is the most important technology that we have. It's the most important thing that we can spend our time on right now. So thank you so much for being here and making this financial revolution possible. And yeah, that's basically it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining. And as always, I'll be back tomorrow on the 1st of January with another amazing episode. Bye-bye.